Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Thank you for joining our seminar today. We're going to look at AI in the church and the impact. We have people here that are specialists working one way or the other with AI and with all the tools that help help this work. We're going to be looking how it affects us, not only the church, but how we are impacted by AI and how we should be prepared. We found out, or I found out, that the church usually lags behind after everyone has moved on in technology. The church comes struggling behind. But this time around, we want to be on the cutting edge. We want to be at the ahead or with the wave. And AI is something that's been spoken about, so we need to be part of it. I'm going to say a very short opening prayer, and then after that we'll go into professionals. So I will move back and then allow people that know about AI to talk about it. So Father, we thank you today for this time. Thank you for this opportunity again in your presence to speak, to talk to the whole world, because this is a global seminar, to ask, Lord, that you open our eyes and explain how technology is going to affect your work here on earth going forward. I will give you praise. We pray for everyone that will speak. Let their thoughts and let their mind, let it be energized by the Holy Spirit. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Amen.
Welcome once again to this seminar, AI and the church. I want to thank the church for this opportunity. Knowledge is worth sharing. This knowledge is worth sharing. The world is going global, going tech, and we need to catch up, right? Or we don't want to catch up, we want to be ahead for them to catch up with us. So thank you once again to the leadership of the church for the opportunity. So first, we want to talk about AI and the church, but then we would want to know what AI is, right? So what are we talking about? So what is AI? First is AI is an acronym. That's normal. It's an acronym for artificial intelligence. And many a times, a lot of people, when they see artificial intelligence, they're thinking about rocket science. They think it's very far away from us, but it's actually closer to us, more closer to us than we think. All right, so just to give an initial background, when you say something is artificial, English, right, it's not the original. It's copied from somewhere. All right, so that means artificial intelligence is copied from somewhere. Now, where is it copied from? It's copied from humans. All right, that's the point of artificial intelligence. Humans. And what is intelligence? When you say someone is intelligent, okay, he's able to reason, is able to acquire knowledge, is also able to apply knowledge. So invariably, every human being is intelligent, right? So we are able to acquire knowledge. We are also able to apply the knowledge. So I'll just go through the outline. Basically, first thing, just to introduce AI to us. The first thing, just to introduce AI. Then talk about the history and the milestones of AI. So to show us that AI actually goes way back, right? So it's not like it started 2 years ago or 1 year ago. It started way back. Then I'll talk about the types of AI, types of artificial intelligence. Then we'll also talk about the different AI fields. There are many fields of AI. But then at the end of the day, I want us to, this is not going to be too technical. It's going to be very on the surface to introduce us to AI. Then we'll talk about the applications of AI. This is very interesting. In the subsequent session, someone is going to talk about how AI is affecting our daily lives, talk about AI and the church. But then we also need to see the applications of AI in other spheres, other fields. Then also very important is the ethical considerations, right? The ethical considerations of AI is also very, very, very important. and we would conclude. And if you have questions and answers, for those online, please, you can just write your questions on the chat box or the message box, the live chat here, and the questions would come up and you can answer them directly. So, what is AI? Without looking at the screen, I've already said AI is artificial intelligence, right? You're trying to copy or mimic humans, basically. So it's a branch of computer science, right, that focuses on creating systems and machines that are capable of performing tasks that require human intelligence. Okay, simple. It's just you focusing on creating machines that will perform the tasks of human beings. All right. Some of those tasks will be problem solving, for example. All right. You want to solve a problem. You want to learn, right? You want to reason. Natural language understanding. Understand languages. We can reason. We can learn stuff. We can also make decisions. And that's what makes us higher than the average animals, right? We are able to, than the dogs, the cats, the lions, the elephants, we are able to reason. We are able to learn. And this is also actually from God, you know? So that's what God has impounded on us, to be able to think, reason, meditate. So these are things human can do. But now what we want to do is we want to create machines that will do this and even do it better than us, okay? Because our brains are, in as much as we have a lot of things we can do, but our brains are still limited. Yeah, so the second definition is a machine's ability to perform the cognitive functions we associate with human minds. All right, so many cognitive functions, I've already mentioned them: problem solving, learning, and all that. So this is it. It's just you creating a machine and focusing on the machine that will do what humans do and even do it better. All right, that's what artificial intelligence is. So when you hear of AI somewhere, the point of this seminar is you don't see it as rocket science and it's impossible to know. So this is the summary of AI. So everything that surrounds AI is just you creating machines, creating systems that will do what humans would do, basically. So the next we'll look at okay. So we'll look at the history and milestones of AI. All right. So if you look at these images, there are two things I want you to see: is a human and a machine. In these three images, human, a machine. I'm holding a mic. This is a machine, right? I'm a human. So you would just think about it that AI started way back, right? So there's always been a connection between humans and machines, right? You can think of any sector in the world: manufacturing, music, entertainment. There are machines that aid humans. So there's been a relationship between humans and machines from way back. All right. So human and machines, that's the history of AI, all right? Remember, introduction to AI, I talked about it being creating machines that will do what humans do. So human and machines are actually a match made in productivity heaven, all right? So if you want to be productive, you need a machine. For example, cars, right? You need a car to ease your movement. You need a microphone to amplify your voice. And humans have benefited largely from machines, right? We can't deny that fact, right? We see machines way back, even in the agricultural sector. You have the tractors. I remember when I was in school, my uncle used to take us to the farm to use hoes and I'm like, this is stressful, you know. So now people are using very innovative machines to speed up productivity. So you can imagine someone on the farm trying to feed a nation and using hoe and plows and stuff. Examples of machines from way back: screw, as little as a screw holding up this this stuff for the keyboard, for example, is a machine, right? Then we ought to go into the complex stuff like the robot-enabled assembly lines of today. So in the manufacturing industry, packaging, right? You just have robots that are doing those things. So they are not humans anymore. All right, and this will talk about why humans are now scared that machines or artificial intelligence will replace them. Okay, we'll talk about that. That's the ethical consideration. So then we go to computers, right? Everybody's using a computer today. Computer is a machine, all right? It helps computer today. Computer is a machine, all right? It helps productivity, all right? And I was reading something at 2016, right? A U.S. census found out that we have 89% of American households have a computer, all right? A computer, it could be a tablet, it's a phone, it's an iPad, it's a desktop computer. 89% of an American household has a computer. And that's how far technology is going, right? That's 2016, and I can imagine what it's going to be now, all right? And it's amazing that some computers have not crossed the exascale threshold. So what's it? They're able to process a lot of things in just a second. Now, you see that a computer can perform as many calculations in a single second as an individual would do in 31,688,765 years. All right, so what I will do in this, I'm not sure I definitely will not live up to that, right? Yeah, and a computer is going to do that in 1 second. So that's how far and fast trailblazing AI is going. Please, can you, next slide, please. Okay, just run through the milestones. So this is how far AI came from 1943, all right? So this is a long time. So it's not just now, all right? So just the notable people in AI, in 1943, Warren McCulloch and Walter Pitts, they actually developed the first mathematical model of a neural network. Again, not to make it too technical, right? AI has to do with a lot of statistics, mathematics. So people that want to AI have to, like professionals, you have to be sound in mathematics, you have to be sound in statistics as well. So AI actually stemmed up from mathematical models, right? From people designing mathematical models. Then interesting thing happened in 1950. So Alan Turing introduced the Turing test as a measure of machine intelligence. So this is also very important that we still use the Turing test till today. Now I'll give you an example of how the Turing test works, right? So some of us, we know of maybe virtual assistants on, maybe you go on the website and you ask customer service, right? So what the Turing test does is it has an evaluator, right? When you're doing the test before they ship it out for us to use, it has an evaluator that would evaluate the machine, right, and the human. So basically, it evaluates that the machine is doing, there's no distinguishing trait from the machine and the human, right? So if I'm chatting with the chat box, for example, ChatGPT, and I'm chatting, the evaluator, what the evaluator does is it checks that, okay, I'm sending some prompts, all right, that the AI assistant is actually responding to me like a human, that I'm not able to distinguish between a human and a machine. So I was reading something recently of a guy who said he was trying to do something using the virtual assistant, GPT-3, and he finished a seminar, all right, on the video, and he gave the GPT-3 stuff to summarize what I did in that video, right? And they were having conversations like humans. I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Can you upload it to my Gmail? Oh, send me your Gmail address. And he sent it to his Gmail, attached everything. And I said, why don't you send it on this chat box? He said, no, it contains sensitive data that is too sensitive for a chat. So that's how AI has gone, and it definitely passed the Turing test to get there. So that's what the Turing test does. Then just to go back to the history, so we have the birth of AI. So AI actually came as a field from 1956 and 1970. So 1956, that was when the term artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy. So John McCarthy was the one that coined the name artificial intelligence, and that's during a workshop. 1963, the general problem solver, not the GPS, we know the global positioning system, it's just the GPS for solves general problems, was introduced. In 1966, Joseph Weisbaum developed ELIZA. So ELIZA is a natural language processing program that simulates conversations. So we'll also look at the fields of NLP, all right? So when we also go ahead, it's part of the slides. The next slide, please. So 1970s to 1980s, we had now the AI research and commercialization. So we know that AI is there, all right? So now we want to go deep into AI to know what AI is. Then we started with expert systems. So the 1970s saw the rise of expert systems. That's AI programs designed to mimic human expertise in specific domains, all right? Then 1980s, we have AI technologies were commercialized, then expert systems were then used in different industries, like finance and healthcare. Then DARPA, US, funded a significant part of AI research in the 1980s. Then, between 1980s and 1990s, I didn't put it there, there was, they call it an AI winter period. So it died down, all right? Because the hype was too much and it wasn't meeting the needs people wanted it to meet. So it was quiet. But then, in 1990s and 2000s, the AI resurgence came, all right? So it came back again. And then we started with machine learning, all right? So most times when you talk about AI, you're actually talking about machine learning in the industry today. When you hear AI, artificial intelligence, is actually machine learning most of the time. So researchers began to focus more on machine learning algorithms. Then that led to advancements in stuff like neural networks, reinforcement learning. We'll talk about that, just an overview. Then we also talked about, we'll look at natural language processing. This was developed at this time as well, between 1990s and 2000s. Next slide, please. Now, from 2010s to present, then we have the AI boom. That was when AI became everywhere. AI became part of our lives. Whether you like it or not, it's part of your life. And I'll show you how it's part of your life. So we talk of deep learning. Yeah, talking about neural networks. Then we have AI in everyday life, all right? So we have AI-powered application and services, such as virtual assistants. Alexa, Alexa. Hey, Siri, call this person. That's AI. That's AI. We have self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles that drive themselves. That's AI. But I want you to still see that it's not rocket science, right? I'll try to explain it. my C is responding to me. Okay. So that's AI. Sometimes they are not smart enough. Yeah, so that's one of the downside of AI. So we look at these things. They are not really complex when we look at it at the bigger level. So the next slide, please. Now, we'll talk about the types of AI. There are two types of AI, all right? We have the weak or the narrow AI. A lot of people have a debate with the name, weak. It sounds like AI is weak, but no, the reason why it's weak is there is because it's focused on a specialized task, right? So it's narrowed to a particular thing. So it's an AI designed to perform specific tasks or solve particular problems, all right? So it's not general. And to be honest with you, there is no AI that is general right now. All right, so anything you see on movies, Star Trek, all these sci-fi movies, they are all lies. There's no AI that's performing general tasks now. Every AI is performing a specific task, and this is weak AI. All right, so this is narrow AI. Example: voice assistants like Siri, Alexa, image recognition systems. I want to open my phone. I open this. I use my face. That's AI. That's weak or narrow AI because it's performing a single task. We have recommendation algorithms, right? Example of recommendation algorithms. You're on Amazon. You open one particular item, and it gives you other recommendations. Right? That's a recommendation system. Or you're on Instagram, and you open an item. You open the stuff, and you start noticing that other things related to that is coming. They're taking your data basically, and they're using it to refine what you're doing. Or you go on Apple Music and you just play a random Christian song, right? You realize that the song that follows it is a Christian song. Automatically, you don't have to select a playlist, right? That's AI. It's picking your data and refining it and recommending what's next. Then next thing is also autonomous vehicles, right? Autonomous vehicles also weak or narrow AI. The next one is a strong or general AI. It's still theoretical, right? It's still hypothetical because it's a form of AI that would possess human intelligence. it's not there out. It's not out there yet. Yeah, obviously it's still going. There are a lot of research going on this, but it's not out there yet because there are a lot of factors to consider. You can't imagine a particular machine and you're programming the machine to perform every task a human would do. That's almost impossible. So when you see, when I used to watch then, before I knew anything about tech, when I watch all of these sci-fi movies, I'm like, ha. But then I started noticing that when I started programming, I see all these movies and I see somebody typing. I'm like, no, it's a lie. You can't do this. So don't allow those things deceive you, right? Those are movies, right? In the real life, if you want to solve a problem, you have to sit and you have to think, all right? So that's a general AI. Just know that it's still hypothetical and it's not yet out there. So interesting part is looking at the different AI fields, right? I said machine learning. Machine learning is the most AI field that is being used or being utilized out there. All right, and what simply means is it focuses on developing algorithms and models that enables computer to learn from and make predictions or decisions based on data. Yes. So if you remember when I defined AI, I defined intelligence. I said someone is intelligent because he's able to acquire and utilize data or utilize knowledge. Same way machine learning or AI systems need to acquire data, they need to acquire knowledge, right, and utilize the knowledge. So the acquisition of knowledge, actually acquisition of data. So permit me to say that every single thing we do, right, these days is a form of data. Every single thing we do. There are systems that will actually count the number of words you speak in a whole day. All right, there are systems, we already know that systems that count the number of steps you take every day. Yeah, number of steps. So there are systems that your watch would count number of steps you take every day. There are systems that would count number of calories that you burn every day. You understand? So that's data, the acquisition of data. That's why I always say is also be very, very, very careful with the data you leave out there. All right, your private information. We'll talk about it in ethical considerations because this data is available somehow to being used to refine things, basically to know things. So machine learning is just you acquiring data and using the data. Then the next one is deep learning. Deep learning is actually a subfield of machine learning. It has to do with neural networks. That now mimics the neural system of man, right? It's a very, 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 very difficult aspect of machine learning. And it's able to do more, handle complex data like images, speech, and natural language. Then we have the other field, natural language processing. This is, it deals with enabling computers to understand, interpret, and generate human language, right? Facilitating interactions between humans and machines through speech and text. So this is a very interesting aspect of machine learning that actually you don't need to know how to speak a language, right? AY and I were just talking recently that Messi, a footballer, was speaking English. Messi does not know how to speak English. Yeah, but it's natural language processing, right? So he's saying something and it's coming out as English. It's actually he's speaking, I think, Spanish, right? It's coming out as English because it's taking the text and translating it immediately. So that's natural language processing. If you pick up your Google translator now, right, just speak a word, right? It understands the language and processes it. There are other uses of natural language processing that we would see I think I'm going to play a video, so you're going to see that. Then also computer interpret and analyze visual information from the world, including image and video processing. So your different images, you're able to process those images. I remember the first time, so I don't work actively in AI, but the first time I did something with AI on the professional level was when I got my first job in Hamburg, and the company, what they used to do is they produce navigation systems for ships, right? So sometimes, and definitely ships have different screen resolution, and they want to see the images based on that resolution. So sometimes you see those images and they come on a particular ship, it's not clear, it's not good. Then there's a computer vision library, OpenCV, Then I use that computer vision library. You can use it to detect the resolution of that screen and make that image to fit that screen. So that's computer vision as well. So it's able to meet and process images. Just it's amazing. Then the other one is robotics, right? This is what we commonly do, or we commonly know, is integration of AI and mechanical systems, right? To create robots capable of autonomous or semi-autonomous actions and decision making. So we see robots doing things. They are still narrow AI because they are doing specific things, right? You are carrying this, putting this, you are talking to this person. So that's another branch of AI. The next slide, please. Okay, so now I want us to just see how the different feeds of AI look. So we'll open the first link. Can we open the link? Okay, thank you. So this is, and I'll want you to pay attention, so because you help me scroll through. This is when I started. This is my own personal work. All right, this is when I started doing AI, not introduction to AI, I would say, far back as 2018. This was actually when I got into programming. I was just playing around with Python, with data analysis. So, like I said, that data is the core of AI. All right, so everything we're doing, we're acquiring data. So I would show this first one. I'll just do like 3 projects. So the first one is crime, right? And we know Germany as well. In America, in the world, there's a place they call Kaggle. So Kaggle has a lot of data sets that you can get and analyze the data. So I got this data set, crime CSV. Sorry, you just learn a bit of code now, but it's no problem. So crime CSV, you're simply reading the data. It's a CSV file, which is comma-separated values, right? Just as simple. So you can get the data from anywhere. You can save the data in anywhere. You can save it in a Word document. You can save it in an Excel sheet. You can save it in a database, all right? And this data is actually gotten, and you read the data. Then can you just go up a bit? Yeah, just let's go down together. So then I get the head of the data, right? So with the head is knowing have an overview of the data, right? So you see the incident number, you see the offense codes, you see the offense code group, larceny, vandalism, toad, you see the offense description, you see the different districts in Boston and the reporting area. Then, can we go up again? Then we see, I want to get the info of the data, right? I have the incident number. So basically just to get all the information of that particular data, right? Then can we go up again? Then I want to describe the data. So what I'm doing now is this is what data analysts and machine learning engineers do, right? You want to analyze data. You want to be sure that the data is sensible or it's clean. They call it clean data, all right? So whatever data it is, you want to see, you want to know the structure of the data, because I cannot imagine opening a file that has 320,000 information in it, just looking at it. That's where machine learning becomes much, much better and productive than humans. All right? There's no human that would look at the data of 320,000 and do it correctly well. Never. Right? So this is just describing the data. Then I want to know the count of the offense code. I want to know the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, the 25% percentile, 50% percentile, and all of that. Then I get the missing data. So there's some data that is missing. All right. Then now come to the data exploration part. Can we just go up? Just keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Basically. Then to this place, you can just stay here. Then now what happens is you use a graph most times to display the data. All right. So if I'm going to display this data to maybe my boss, all right, this is what I'm going to do, because my boss does not care about my jargons. He just wants to see what this data is going to do. Now, the point of all of this is this data will help us make predictions, all right? Make us make predictions. Then the American or the Boston police would say, okay, this so time, all right, there are so crimes. Should we increase police in that area? So we definitely would have to increase police in that area. Same way in church, for example. Let's even begin the church. we record number of males, females that come to church, right, on a Sunday. We have the data for a period of 2 years, and you should note that this data has to be collected over a period of time, not just 1 week, 2 weeks. It could even take 3 years of data, right? You then take the data, then you're now able to analyze that, okay, on so time, men come to church more than women. You see it over time. You look at the season. Is it winter or summer? All right. If it's winter, you can explain that, okay, the men are coming out more, the women have to take care of the children. For example, I'm just telling you different predictions you can make based on the data. Yeah, let's go to the second link. I think I'm done with machine learning. I don't want to bore you too much. Then the next one is, I think it's, so deep learning. We're going to say the second link. I just want to show you how deep learning looks like. All right. So deep learning, which is a branch of machine learning that works with neural networks, it's very complex. Right? I don't know much about this field. It's very complex because you see that you have just an input layer. The input layer could be whatever you're inputting. It could be images. It could be text. It could be anything. Then you have the hidden layers. This is where the work is. This is where you have different algorithms happening. All right, where you're detecting images, you're detecting objects, you're detecting humans. All right, then you have the output. The output is what we see. The next slide, please. You're going to see a video of natural language processing. Can you play it, please? Thank you. But it's fine. I think we can just see. So this is the business issue, all right? This is natural language processing. You're reading and interpreting contracts, right? So Ernst & Young, right? The document intelligence for contract review using AI and natural language processing. So then they have a lot of contracts, right? So many contract lease agreements. I can't read human. A human cannot read all of this things effectively, all right? So they use natural language processing to get some text, some things out of it, right? And extract information. They just need the specific information they need. Commencement date of the contract, when the contract is ending, some clauses to the contract, and all of that. Okay. You could just pause it. I think that's enough just to see. Yeah, that's almost over. Then this is also for people that, going out to people that apply for jobs, right? Many a times, this is how they look at your CV, all right? Many a times they look at your CV like this. So that's why when you're putting out things, when you're putting out your CV, all right, this is for also members of the church, you put relevant information, things that make you stand out, all right? Not just saying, oh, I worked as a business analyst, finish. No. Everybody works as a business analyst, but you have to talk about your milestones, what you actually achieved. Because they will search this particular CV. Okay, what did he do? They have a natural processing that would go into the place and see the specific results you produced in your sphere of influence. So you should be specific because this is what they don't have time to look at your CV, everybody's CV one by one. No. If you have thousands of applications. So this is one tip. Can we go to the next link? And this is computer vision. So we don't need to play the sound. The video is enough. So this is a fire use case. So this is how computer vision works and deep neural network works. All right. So it's able to identify a car. All right. It's able to identify humans. And those values there are the values level of accuracy. All right. So it's the maximum is 1. So it's able to identify a person. It's able to identify a stop sign. It's able to identify car. So this is how autonomous driving works as well. All right. So the car is moving. You have computer vision. You have deep learning in it, and it's able to identify, oh, this is this person. this is that person. I'm not supposed to eat this object. I'm supposed to maintain a distance of at least 2 or 3 meters. Yeah, so you can program these things. So the point is, all this works from data. So this is a person. It's not able to identify fire, right? Because it has not been trained with fire, right? When you say you train a machine learning system, you send it a lot of data, right? So data is the big meat of machine learning, basically. Can you just stop the video? Thank you. Then we can go to the next slide. Okay, now to the applications of AI. We're rounding up. We have applications of AI in different fields, right? The first one is healthcare. Healthcare, where you have medical diagnosis, X-rays, MRIs, right? So these days, in the medical field, doctors don't really go through those MRI scans. I remember the first time I did an MRI, and the doctor was doing like this. I'm like, oh no. You saw you make a mistake. Yeah. But now AI systems, they know, they are trained with how the body system should look. So if they look at the MRI scan, they know there's a deformation in this thing. All right, there's a problem. Then the second one is drug discovery. So AI is used in drug discovery as well. These days, you're able to pass in a lot of chemicals or whatever they use in discovering drugs, and AI is able to detect the components, right, that that this drug contains, right? So this is a tip for wisdom as well. So AI can detect some of those things, yeah? Then personalized medicine. So AI, based on, back home in Nigeria, you would you go to a doctor and they'll tell you, bring your file, right? You go to, bring your file. That's the first thing they need to. But now, I don't need to bring my file. My system is there, all right? All my data is there. I know my health history, all right? And the AI personalized medicine would know that, okay, Obina, your level of fat in your body has deviated. All right, you need to do this. So AI can do that. Then also in finance, right? Algorithmic trading. For people that do Forex and all those stuff, AI can do that. What it does in this case is it analyzes the market. And that's why a lot of ETFs, that's the trade funds these days, use AI. It analyzes the market. All right, so a lot of people invest in ETFs. I don't care how the market is looking like. I just invest in an ETF. The ETF would analyze the market, would see that, there's a prospect of predictions, right, based on previous data. There's a prospect of this having a 10% return on investment over this period. I'll invest here. So ETFs also apply AI in algorithmic trading. Then fraud detection as well, all right, on a system. When there's the deviation, so there's something they call in cloud, in cloud systems, where a particular person is logging onto a system so that every other person does not have access to that system. All right, so I can't remember the technical term now. So what AI would do is it notices a particular IP address that is pinging that particular system and know that this person is pinging at this rate. No system should ping at this rate. They need to cut off that person. All right, so it detects frauds as well. Then also in credit scoring, all right. So America, we know America is a credit system. So it's also there where you just put in your data and it scores your credit for you. Then autonomous vehicles, we also talked about that. Self-driving cars, drones, which we know, I guess. The next slide, please. Then also in customer service, so this is also important. We have chatbots and virtual assistants, right? That's what's being used these days, where you go, sometimes I go on a website at 1 a.m. and I'm seeing a chat box replying to me. I'm like, these people, don't they sleep? But it's actually not a human, right? It could be a human there, right? A human face that's already they've trained that system to answer different kind of questions based on the context. That's why you say some of them are lazy. They will tell you, they will give you options of what to choose, right? So that's also used. Then also in voice assistants, Alexa, Siri, and stuff. So that uses natural language processing. That's why sometimes if you say Siri, call Obina, I'm not sure Siri will know Obina. But yeah, it uses your voice as well. Then e-commerce, right? Recommendation systems. I talked about Amazon. If you're clicking on a particular item on Amazon, it brings other items related to that, right? Also in dynamic pricing, in Google Flights, for example, for those that want to book flights at a cheaper rate, you put in some search parameters there, all right? And what it now does is it goes to check the prices from different places, right? And gives you the cheapest based on your search criteria. And it might not do it immediately. You can tell it, send me an email daily, every 2 weeks or every week. So it's also used there. Then in manufacturing and robotics, all right? So we have robotic automation, people that work in the factory. Then in predictive maintenance, this is something that is also very important in manufacturing, where the AI would know that this system is ready to be maintained, right? So it's a predictive and preventive maintenance. Then the other one is education, personalized learning, right? You can personalize what you want to learn. There are a lot of resources out there that could overwhelm you, right? But then you can choose what you want to do. Then also in automated grading. These days, people use automated grading, right? Where I have 1,000 students. Come on, I can't mark 1,000 student script, you know? So you just put the answers on answers or something similar. If it's a written stuff, something similar to that, right? Obviously, it doesn't have to match. It doesn't have to be like for like. So I talked about the, if you look at the video I showed, right, you saw the percentage of accuracy, 0.5. So if it's 0.6, 0.7, it's a pass, right? For example, that's what people do in automated grading. The next slide, please. And cybersecurity as well, threat detection and password protection, you can use that. And in entertainment, content recommendation. So these things, like I said, you're watching a movie on Netflix, it tells you can watch stuff like this, all right? Then also in video game AI, you can use that in video game AI. Even in person, I read the story of somebody that was playing chess with a machine, and the machine had seen 20 steps ahead of that particular person. It never happens in chess, no matter how good you are, right? So that's what AI can do as well. The next slide, I think that's the last. Yeah, so the ethical considerations, also very important. As we're looking at the positive parts of AI, we also look at the things that could be not negative, or the things we should consider when applying AI. So the first one is bias and fairness. All right, AI could be biased based on the data that it takes in. All right, so it's the data you put into it, it's going to analyze. But as humans, when we take in something, we know that this thing is wrong. All right, but AI does not know what is wrong or right. All right, so but then we have to ensure that we are fair when we are using it, because it's a machine no matter what we do. Then you also, second thing is privacy, right? A lot of people have issues with AI. I think there are in some places in Europe that ChatGPT is not allowed to be used, right? Because of privacy, you know. So it requires a vast amount of personal data. Some things you don't want to give out. So there's consideration that. Then the other one is the job displacement. This is also very important, all right? But I'm almost very positive that it's not going to displace humans, because humans, it always requires human intervention somehow, all right? It always requires human intervention. As for us is that we, right, learning how to use some of these tools, because it will come to a time that we would want to apply these things, and they would sieve in the industry, they will sieve people that can use these tools to make things faster. All right. Then other thing is security. Right. AI can be exploited for malicious purposes, definitely. So we should also consider that. And last one is data collection and consent. All right. So we have GDPR in Europe. So also these are things we should consider when using AI. I think that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. I don't know, do we have any questions, maybe on the live chat, or any questions from here? Okay, okay. Okay. All right. right. So thank you. I think next person.
Hello. All right. I'm going to be taking the second topic for this AI presentation event here at the church. And the question is, how will AI influence our day-to-day lives? And so to begin, I would like to introduce you to this guy called Clifford Stoll. He used to be an astrophysicist and an alpha. And I just want to use him as an example of how difficult it can be to predict things. In this case, it will be predicting the future of the internet. So, exactly. Back in 1995, he was an author at Newsweek. Newsweek is a journal from that time about technology, right? And he wrote a contribution concerning the internet and its future. And perhaps we can just read this together real quick because I think it's a bit funny. He said, visionaries see a future of telecommunicating workers, interactive libraries, and multimedia classrooms. They speak of electronic town meetings and virtual communities. Commerce and business will shift from offices and mails to networks and modems. Baloney, he says. Do our computer pundits lack all common sense? This was 1995, and about 30 years later, I'm pretty sure that every single one of us here in the room can at least name an example for each one of these things that exists prominently today. So, exactly. It looks quite foolish in hindsight what he said. However, if we exactly, so these are just a few examples of the things that I boldened in his article. We have Zoom, we have Brilliant. Brilliant and Khan Academy are e-learning platforms. Reddit and Discord are for, you could say, town hall communities or just networking with people. And then we have Wikipedia and Amazon, very self-explanatory. Right. Tammy, could you help me? Exactly. However, I don't know how many of you know about the dot-com bubble or have heard about it. So if we look to the very left, we see it's 1995. And this is basically when internet companies, internet technology companies started showing up. And since it was a new thing, a new technology, a lot of people started investing in them. So this here is the Nasdaq Composite from about 1995 to 2004. And so you can see as it steadily climbs up here, these early internet companies were able to gather to check whether their business models were sound, whether their cash flows were all right on their balance sheets and accounting sheets. And so at the very top here, the so-called internet bubble burst, and the market turned into a bear market. What basically happened is that all these internet companies, they failed to perform properly. And so in this downhill descent here, you see how the Nasdaq itself, or how the bursting of the dot-com bubble destroyed or eliminated about $6.5 trillion of household wealth in little over a year. And exactly, so if we go back to Clifford's prediction, and we realize that he was predicting for the next 5 to 6 years, and this happened exactly 5 to 6 years after his prediction, it might have seemed at the time that this would be the end of the internet, marked about here in the yellow, and that the internet would not develop further from there. So exactly, this is just something I want us to keep in mind when we try and make predictions of how things will influence us, how futures would develop. The $6.5 trillion in 2000, in the year 2000, are about the equivalent of $11.5 trillion in today's money, which is about, I just have a little opinion here to share concerning when we try to predict the future and what lessons we can learn from the from this example of the internet, of the early stages of the internet. And what often happens at the beginning of technology introduction is that a lot of people speculate about these technological advancements long before their genuine utility or mainstream applicability has been truly determined. And so this, combined with the fear of missing out, also known as FOMO, basically the fear of missing out is trying to be one of the first adopters to adopt a new technology or a new wave to potentially gain high returns on the stock market. And so these two things in combination can become quite problematic when trying to predict the future. Could you help me? Exactly. And so, yes, concerning today's contemporary times, on the very left we see one of the leaders at FTX, the FTX trade network. It was a marketing place for cryptocurrencies and so-called NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. That looked like it was going to be a promising technology for the future, but ended up not panning out as we expected it to. The same could be, say, perhaps about false promises of Tesla's full self-driving. Elon Musk promised that we'd have self-driving cars years ago, and again, if we perhaps go to the previous presentation by Obina, the difference between weak AI and strong AI was not considered here, and for a car to take over this entire task of being able to drive itself, it would have to be a strong AI and not a weak AI. And then we have, on the very right, we have Facebook's metaverse, also known as Meta. Was also hyped up to be it was going to be a very significant development. It was going to change the world. But it turns out this was also something that investors, it was part of this hype cycle where the technological advancement and the speculation on that far outpaced its mainstream applicability and genuine utility. And so I just want us to keep this in mind when we are trying to think of how AI will influence our lives in the future. Exactly. So I don't want this entire presentation to be to be on such a negative note and depressing. So instead of just so generally trying to predict the future is hard, but what we can do is we can actively shape the future. We can make efforts to be part of this early wave that defines how AI is going to be used. And so for the agenda of my presentation, I would like to speak a little on my work, the research that I do in the AI field, and how we can perhaps use AI in our private lives to shape the future of how it influences us. Exactly. Oh. Right. On the left, does anyone know what this company is? Has anyone ever heard of it? Right, that is the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. They make some of the most advanced microchips in the world. And then on the right, we have a map. Up here is China, and then below it is the South China Sea. So basically what I want us to look at is to look at the influence that AI has on a geopolitical scale, and then narrow it down step by step. So from geopolitical to European to German to our city here in Leipzig, just to see on what level it can influence us and on what level we can influence it back as well. Exactly, so we have the microchips here. Then I don't know if you can see it, but in red, basically when you have international maritime laws, every country that is next to a body of water has a certain distance that it can claim as its own territory to use for trade routes or to exploit the resources that are in the water. And so we have all these neighboring countries to China, all these countries that are neighboring China and that are neighboring the water. And then we have China here, and in the red is basically what they claim to be their own territory. They want to have the whole thing, and so that has been causing international problems. If you could help me. Exactly, so the Chinese Communist Party, I would like to focus, rather than saying that this is something Chinese people do, I'd like to emphasize that it is their leadership, it is the party that is responsible for these decisions, not Chinese people themselves. Exactly. And if we go on, exactly. So not only is China trying to reach out and claim this this South China Sea for itself to exploit its resources and trade routes, but also lay claim on former or what can be considered former Chinese territories. So exactly, and so Taiwan, as we saw before, they were producing these highly advanced microchips that are now of strategy. And yes, we have witnessed the rapid rise of China from a developing nation to and slowly progressing to a global superpower. Yes, and so it is internationally right now believed that this is in an effort by the CCP to grow its capacity for global influence, right? And so America right now, they are the current single global superpower, and are facing these challenges, these expansionist challenges, as the current holders of the current global order, along with its allies in the Asian countries and in the Asian region and the Western allies. And this is leading to increased competition between American leadership and Chinese communist leadership. So how Europe exactly. So now we move from a global scope to a European scope. Where does Europe find itself in all of this, in all of these international situations? So we know that Europe and America have been able to establish common ground in previous international incidents. But since Europe is a little less influential than America in certain geopolitical situations, the European Union as well is trying to redefine its international diplomatic role by also growing its influence the same way, or not the same way, but in essence to achieve the same result as China is, or as the CCP is. And so when we compare the way America and the EU, or the US and the EU do their international diplomatics, then the EU has a preference for soft power, whereas the US often lacks a combination of hard and soft power. And so it is in an ideal situation, the European Union would like to be able to determine its own foreign policy without US influence, so that, for instance, when America suggests a resolution to the Chinese or to the Chinese geopolitical situation, the European Union has a stronger foot to present an alternative path that they would like to take, and thereby forge relationships exactly internationally and follow its own unique foreign policy goals. And so it is recognized that in the European scope we have the Europe's Horizon 2020 initiative that has passed, but it was up to that time the biggest innovation and research project that the EU had undertaken to date. And so after that comes Europe's digital decade. And in this digital decade, they want to focus especially on the usage of AI and how AI can help them achieve a stronger footing in this geopolitical space. So it is especially the digital transformation of businesses using AI. And in Germany, in the Horizon 2020 project, this was done with an initiative known as Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is basically a name that was coined so that it symbolizes the fourth industrial revolution after the agricultural, the steam power, electrification, and if we go on, oopsie. We, within this European context, we can now see the role that Germany wants to play within this. And so we have the general potential of the digital transformation that is to fundamentally influence the way organizations work. And more than just digitizing them, this allows companies to be able to transform their organizational processes on a very fundamental level, which in the end results in new business areas and new business concepts being realized. And then unique to the German situation, you have what's called the Deutsche Mittelstand, which is basically the German middle class. And so, yeah, the German middle class is its so-called small and medium-sized enterprise sector. Basically, these are family-owned businesses that in total make up more than 99% of Germany's economy. However, due to their limited resources, they are rarely able to implement high levels of digitization or AI by themselves. And also what's important is that their main drive for national competence development, so this is through internship programs and whatnot, they significantly contribute to the competence development of German youth and German workers. Exactly. And so ideally, this sets up an opportunity where digital innovations and technologies, especially artificial intelligence, combined with the SME sector, should be able to create a big economic advantage for Germany. However, if we go to the next slide, we realize that this hasn't been able to transpire as the strategic leadership had expected it to. We realized that only 12% of all German companies are able to improve their business processes using artificial intelligence. This is seen by their digital technology or AI technology maturity level, while another 63% remain in an experimental phase of introducing AI solutions. So this is basically of the rest, so of the other 88%, 63 are experimenting with it, and the rest are not even touching artificial intelligence. And unfortunately, 95% of those artificial intelligence projects fail. And so this highlights the challenges that the German economy is having in making effective use of artificial intelligence. And if we go back to the hype cycle or to contemporary examples of where we saw that promising technologies were not able to be realized, this is in line with that. And so we zoom down again into a more local East German scope. And we have the Künstlich Menschlich Intelligent. It is the KMI Competence Center. And what we want to do at this competence center, this is where I do my research work, this is where I work. I am employed by the University of Leipzig in a research project that is called Consortium Research, and this is where several universities and businesses, many of them being these small and medium-sized entities, work together to research how we can potentially harness this transformative potential of artificial intelligence for businesses. And in our doing so, we want to prioritize we want to have a human-focused development. So in the previous presentation, Obina briefly mentioned how people might fear that they might be replaced by artificial intelligence, especially in the job sector, and that it has little acceptance with them. So instead of it working complementary with them, they feel that they would have to compete against it. And so this is an influence that the German government wants to avoid. And so they coined this concept of sustainable artificial intelligence, which is basically artificial intelligence that is complementary and supportive to humans in general, and especially employees in these small and medium-sized entities, focusing on their well-being and prioritizing that over more profit-driven approaches, as were common in the previous Industry 4.0 era, so to say. So the main goal is to maintain employability and enable people to play a more active role in changing the economy. So this is heading towards how we can influence artificial intelligence, or the use or the effect of it on ourselves, and how it in inverse, perhaps indirectly, can affect us. So now I'm going to delve a little deeper into our research findings. This is now in Leipzig. So it is our aim to understand the problem that these small and medium-sized entities are facing, to understand it better, so that we're going to be able to effectively apply a solution. And so one of the challenges we have realized that may not just apply to companies but individuals as well is that they have what we like to call an insufficient data-driven thinking. And this is just basically an awareness, or perhaps unawareness, of the value that is implicitly hidden in data. So what happens with a lot of these companies is that they don't even record data to begin with, because they don't see the use of it. They don't see why this could help them in the future. And oftentimes it is not immediately apparent until you have a lot of data and you start realizing patterns within it, and then you are able to extract use out of it. And then the other challenge is that we can blame these companies for not recording the data or not seeing any value in it, but without the lack of structured and integrated processes to be automatically recording these data. So like the smartwatches that were mentioned before, they do this automatically. But if you work in a process and you finish your work, and now you have to start another work to document all the data that you have been generating, it seems to make no sense for the workers, and so they don't do it. And this is especially noticeable when you have certain experts or certain employees specialize themselves in a field, and all the information they have remains in their heads instead of being written down somewhere. And so whenever they decide to leave or they're unavailable to the company, that knowledge as well leaves with them. So those are the two main challenges that we're facing in our research. And if we go on, right, we find that the solution we're currently working on, I wouldn't go any much deeper into the technical details, but the solution that we're working on prioritizes what is called knowledge or information management. And this information management works as an intermediary between the data and the effective use of artificial intelligence, so that data in itself is upgraded to more valuable knowledge through the knowledge management, and thus higher levels of AI maturity can be achieved. And so now we'll have a quick question and answering session. And then after that, we'll have a live demonstration of an AI service that can help us do this kind of information management in our day-to-day personal life. And it will be ChatGPT, exactly. Thank you. Are there any question and answering session? Basically, I would stand here. What we wanted to do was that after each session, the person stands and we get questions per session. questions per session, and then if the person standing has difficulty answering, then the other presenters can perhaps step in and help out as well. Yes. All right. Will I? Yeah. Large and in most cases diverse data sets for optimal performance. You will agree that not all industries. So we have the first online question here. I'll just read it out loud. AI systems heavily rely on large and in most cases diverse data sets for optimal performance. You will agree that not all industries, institutions have access to the required volume or quality of data. This is true on both cases. The question is, how do you think this problem will impact AI and its application in the future? Here I can, so how it is impacting our research right now, I can perhaps speak from practical experience. I have been working on this research project, this particular one, for 1 year. And out of that 1 year, it is safe to assume that we spend at least 90% of the time, at least 10 months, trying to get data that we can analyze. So oftentimes the problem is that the data is written with pen or paper and hasn't been digitized yet, or when it is digitized, that it isn't. This is an aspect called data quality, that the fields in the data are not always consistently filled. And so what we can do with that, there are approaches that that require far less data to start, that they require far less data for their training, so-called one-shot and zero-knowledge approaches, I believe they're called. And so we are also looking, exactly, so we mainly look into, so for future application, we look into methods that use less data, or also generative methods that are able to generate fake data that is still rich enough in features so that we can use these generated pseudo data sets to train machine learning models. I hope that approaches an acceptable answer for the question. Yes, otherwise I would go on to the next question. Okay.
Our business today is the church.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned a lot about the church in the presentation, but we could say the church is also like a small SME, where we have data. Well, Joseph, give us from 2000 and something, how many people have been attending. We can get that. But the thing is, what do you think we can use church data for? And the second is, at what point do you think AI can do many of the functions we do in church? Generating prayer points, making announcements. I mean, if you look at our program, opening prayer, closing prayer, just by imagination, it's possible. Like Obina was saying, these are things that can really be done even now. Asking a virtual assistant to, So I don't go too far. One is, what can we do with the data we collect? Second is, do you think some of the functions we do now can be done artificially? Thank you.
All right, excellent. I would go. Not all of it. I can. So basically, what I'm going to, part of this, we're going to present oncoming, but I can already start answering aspects of the question as they were asked. So we will just address the first question. The first question would be to create a situational awareness of what data we actually have. So basically what we'll do here, if we look at the church as an entity, as an organizational entity, we would create a model and try and model all the processes that happen in church. So for example, we have a process called Sunday service. Sunday service runs like this, and so is the data that is gathered or generated during a Sunday service. This can be from the message. These Bible verses were used during this message. This was the attendance. This was the offering. These were the tithes. Exactly. And so we structure all this data relative to one another. So we model it. And then out of those models, we can then see patterns. So we can then see patterns. This is now approaching your second question. What do we do with this information, and how can these things be automated? Basically, what we want to do with the data is to generate information out of the data. So for instance, we can see a pattern, or we can see a correlation and a causation that when we have special events such as baby dedications or baptisms, we have a much greater attendance than when we don't. And so we can perhaps look at these events a little closely and realize, okay, it is, for instance, we now want to find out, okay, how do we invite these people to church? How do we reach out to them that they come more often? And so what we then exactly, so based on the data we have, we try and extrapolate information from it. We ask new questions and see whether our data can answer it. And if it can't, then we need to start trying to get more of that data. And basically what we want to do is to gain knowledge from it, knowledge that we can use in our decisions on how we move forward with the church. That is one. And then secondly, what can be automated in church, or what can AI be used for in church? This is going back to mainly the information management and knowledge management. So we have, if we have our bulletin, we see that we have lots of text there, for instance. What we could start doing is for workers in church that create these textual content, for them to start using artificial intelligence to put more, or to do a broader research or a broader search, a contextual search of what is the information they want to put in there. So for instance, Pastor, you read a lot of books. You read a lot of books, and you use those books to make the message that is preached on Sunday more applicable, more tangible, more applicable to real life. Exactly. But not everyone can read books like that. And so they can use, for instance, a large language model like ChatGPT and just explore the information that they're going to present more. They can communicate with this language model and ask it questions concerning the information that you want to present, how it would present it, what it would change, how it can be changed exactly. How can additional information, such as background information or information about certain translations, exactly, how can that all flow into it? And so knowledge management, in my opinion, is one of the main things we can do with artificial intelligence at church. But yes, are there any other questions? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Just one more question, and then we'll move on to the next section. Yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is concerning the AI 4.0 and the AI 5.0. And if I understood, the AI 4.0 is what is peculiar to China and America, and the AI 5.0 is what is peculiar to Europe. So what Europe is trying to develop, like a more friendly or humane AI system that involves human beings and doesn't. So how will this compare on the global market? Does it mean that those that are coming up in Europe will only be able to find comparable jobs in Europe? I mean, what would that look like on a global
What
level?
would the impact be?
Yeah, on a global level.
So just a few corrections I need to make. It is Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0. Exactly. And these are government initiatives by Germany, exactly, but also adopted elsewhere in the world, of how these new digital technologies and innovations can be applied to industry, exactly. And 5.0, yes, is the more human-focused one. Europe, for instance, is a big is very exemplary in, for example, its data protection rights. A lot of products or AI systems that are used elsewhere, like in China, you have this social credit system, or in America, you have certain data privacy rights that would never be passed in Europe, exactly. So you have different environments concerning that, and so basically now the question is how would a worker, what was with the worker? How would the worker in Europe? Yes. Okay, yes, it does. It might not limit your own skills, perhaps, but it would limit, data is very, very important for these AI algorithms, and Europe is just a far more restrictive environment for data than America or, let's say, China, exactly. And so you find that products that are developed abroad, like Google Bard, for example, it can go through your emails and help you sort them according to the content and all. That is banned in Europe. Google Bard does not work in Europe. Also, Facebook wanted to bring out a new Twitter replacement called Threads, and the European Commission looked at it. They saw that Facebook wanted medical data and couldn't explain why they needed it, so they just banned the entire app entirely, exactly. And so a lot of things that are okay internationally are not okay here. And so if you perhaps come from an international environment and are used to just having so much data to make these excellent services, you might find yourself restricted. And the opposite, a lot of startups in Europe leave to go to America, for instance, because they just have more freedoms there. Yeah. So that's perhaps how I can influence. Mm. No problem. All right, if there are no further questions, we can go to the next segment.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to look at some areas, specifically in the context of church, that might be affected by artificial intelligence or are already affected. Could you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So here are some key areas in the context of church that can be affected by AI. I must admit, I was initially thinking mostly about content creation. So how can AI help preparing a sermon or something? But then I myself used an AI-powered tool to ask for more ideas. And so some of them I listed here. And I'm going a bit more in detail in those that you can see here. And I'm also going to show some examples, like how an AI-powered tool can help you in these areas specifically. Yeah, next slide. Thank you. Yeah, so probably one of the key areas is the one for to create content, create and curate content, and yeah, so content could be text, could be images, could be music, songs for sermons, Bible studies, etc. And I would like to show you a live application of AI. So had a busy week, and on Saturday night he suddenly remembers, you know, I have a preaching next morning. Fit as with technology, he's opening the ChatGPT, and Tommy is going to show now how this is working. So quickly, so the tool we're going to present or to use to show an example is called ChatGPT. It's an AI-powered chatbot or virtual assistant that was released by a company called OpenAI in November last year. At that time, it caused a big hype around AI because of the capabilities it had. I think the hype has gone a bit, but it's still a very powerful, or even more powerful tool, more than back then. But yeah, people used it and so got a bit more familiar, and so there's not the big hype around it that it was in November last year, basically. Ready? Yeah, if you could just show the ChatGPT window here. Yeah. So if you can log in. It's still loading. Okay. Get with a critical point of view. Oh, we are there? Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so going back to my example with the pastor to prepare a sermon for the Sunday. So let's say he wanted to tell the congregation something about Noah. Oh, sorry? The kingdom? Okay. So you could just type in there in natural language, help me preparing a sermon on the kingdom of God. Well, yeah. So here in this case, you see it. The chatbot gives you an outline for a potential presentation on that topic, and then you could now fill it a bit more with content. But it already gives you some ideas and might save you some work. Okay, and another one. So if let's say, I mentioned the AI can generate text, or the chatbot can help you creating text, but also it could be some like let's say songs. So let's say you had in mind you have you want to write your own worship song, and so for a while you have a nice melody in mind, but you still don't have the lyrics. So you can ask the chatbot, help me write a worship song. Okay. On peace. Okay. On peace. And yeah, peace and. So, and you see, it's rhyming. It's all rhyming. So, what and the interesting thing is, I did something similar yesterday. I got a different lyrics, and I took a piece of the lyrics and tried to Google it, and it could really not find it. So, this. The verse or chorus as shown here is really something the AI made up. It's not just copied from somewhere. But of course, we do not know what original songs it has used to also produce these results, okay? And yeah, Tommy, can you go back to the presentation? So while you can see the power of AI, again, you have to look at it also with a critical eye, let's say. Yeah, and you should, for example, especially if there's some content that it is based on, like, let's say something from the Bible, etc. It's always good if you do a fact check, because even the AI can generate information that might not be true. Okay, so a second very important aspect is the legal one. So there's often but there can be intellectual property and copyright infringement. So as Tommy and Obina mentioned, the AI needs data most of all, and so the material provided or fed to the AI algorithms, it has to come from somewhere, and I guess it is not always that the original authors of the material have been asked or given their consent for their material to be used. Okay. In fact, there's two cases maybe that were quite big on the media. So one just some days ago, some authors, like for example George Martin, the author of the Game of Thrones, some of you might know this. He has sued the company behind this chatbot because of copyright infringement. So apparently they have used also some of his books to feed to the AI, and without him giving a consent. Okay. And another one was some months ago, I think, where a human rights organization they used a photo generated by AI where it showed some students in Myanmar that were arrested by the military police there. But at the end, it turned out the photo was completely fake. It was really generated by AI, and so there's also the question, like, how far can you go with that? Okay, so what is considered ethical use and what is not? So there's a bit of a gray zone also there. Next one. So another area at church would be where AI could assist is personalized spiritual growth. And so based on what individuals read or what they are looking for or content they engage with, the AI could help recommending them customized or personalized reading plans or study groups or related activities. Next slide, please. Another area is to enhance the worship experience. So if you combine artificial intelligence with augmented or virtual reality, for example, people could have a much more immersive experience. So for example, you could, walk through a church from, hundreds of years ago in a virtual world, and then based on clicks or decisions you make, you can see different things in that virtual world, let's say. Next one. One field that Tommy mentioned before is also in the just administrative tasks that a church has. AI can help or facilitate tasks. For example, streamlining member management, donation processing, etc. And also it can help when people have questions, frequently asked questions about the services the church provide, the times, and other relating matters. Next slide, please. Okay. Again, another field is accessibility and inclusivity. So if you had individuals in the congregation with disabilities, for example, people that are deaf, AI could help with language interpretation, and then there could be an AI-powered avatar that does the sign language so that these people understand what the pastor is saying. Go on. Yeah. Another one is a virtual prayer support. You could use AI to, again, personalize prayers based on requests of the individuals. And here I would like to show an example on the ChatGPT again. Yeah, so if we could just say, ask the chatbot, write me a prayer for my sick brother, and let's see what we get. Can that be? Is that readable on the YouTube, or is it? Can you see that actually? Or yes. So the question, the next one is the next task for the chatbot. Could you give me a prayer that actually heals my brother? Yeah, I mean, if you read that, it sounds pretty impressive. So it could really, it's something really a human being, a pastor, could have said also, you know. So yeah, yeah. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Sure.
Can you ask for prayer points concerning prayer points concerning breaking the wall of expanding, expansion of the kingdom? Yes. He knows the right. Open hands, laborers in the harvest, protection for believers, unity in the church, resources and so on. Very good. Spiritual growth, breaking barriers, revival and renewal, wisdom. So what's left? These are certain job of prayer points.
Protection from false doctrines,
Uh-huh.
also praise
Praise and worship.
genuine praise and worship.
But now you can take this information and say, no, I want prayer points that the Nigerian church.
No. This one works in Nigeria too. Wow. Okay, go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, back to the slides, please.
Yeah, so prayer can be.
Yeah, next one. Yeah, so I guess another very important section is counseling and pastoral care. So AI could assist pastors in providing counseling. And here again, you have to look at this a little bit critical. Because, yeah, I guess if people are in trouble and they need advice or guidance, usually they want to have some human interaction. They want to see maybe the other person into the face, see some emotions, etc. And so, yeah, while again AI could give advice, it might not be what you really want or need. But let's again try one more example in the chatbot. So let's say you have a little bit trouble in your marriage, yeah? So you could say, give me some spiritual advice on my broken marriage. Yeah, again, if you look at the key points, the ones in bold, it's all advice you could have been given by a human being.
Yeah, the human can use this and then use it in a
Elaborate,
guideline.
exactly.
So
Right.
if I had someone coming in to the office to talk about their marriage, I could have this already printed out
Yeah.
for myself as points I could take.
Right. So that's maybe one of the important conclusions. So it can really help in preparation of some of the material or information you need, but it will not replace yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Back to the slide. Yeah, and then another field is engagement with the congregation. So again, if you had information about like how your congregation reacts to certain topics you talk about, etc., you could also then, or AI can give you advice to create tailored, customized content for what the congregation prefers, or things, yeah, like that. Of course, it requires that you collect a certain amount of data. And this goes back to the question also you had for Tommy, I think. So I think you have to decide basically what kind of services you want to offer that could be AI powered, and only then you can make your decision what data you want or need to collect. While not the other way, you just start collecting whatever information you have about the congregation if this is going to be used. But if you look at your services, those you want to offer, and then from there you could derive, you could say what is the kind of data we should collect, you know, to be able to provide these services or provide them in a better manner or at better quality, etc. Yeah, I think that's the last slide. Can you? Yeah. Thank you very much. For it to be.
Okay, so it gives us the whole a new song now, not even normal song. Some love said grace. Your tune. Is it your tune you need to put in now?
Yeah.
But look at the right people. Yeah, but if you put music to it.
No, again, this is something it just came up with based on whatever material it was fed to the board before, to the system before. Exactly.
So basically, more in detail, it you can compare it to a human that listens to songs and learns how to compose music based on examples they have heard, but that person knows that they can't just copy one of the songs they have heard and just pretend that it's their own. So basically what the language model, what the ChatGPT does is it learns patterns. This is how good songs are made. This is how worship songs are made. And then based on that, it starts putting together its own information based on statistics and says this is likely to be a good song, and then gives you that. Yeah. So this is entirely original. Now, what I've read online is that, for example, when you generate images and you have the generated image and you want to put a copyright on that image, if it is generated by AI, you're not allowed to put a copyright on the image, and anyone else that sees that image is allowed to use that image for their own purpose as well, because it was generated by an AI. Yes. So I only know this for images. I don't know about songs, for instance. Exactly. So yeah, I don't know about that either. I do know for images though, because AI was winning art competitions and a lot of artists were upset. Exactly. And
is it? Have you found out anyone writing a book with AI? Is that anywhere? Because one could really write a book with just be copying and pasting into a book.
So for professionals, right? So people that write technical articles, for example. So I write technical articles, and I can see a technical article and know if it was a human that wrote it or a machine that wrote it because of the words. Because a human is human. No matter the catalog of language you have, your vocabulary is limited. Yeah, but the machine is very specific. The words they use, you will know it's a machine. Same way with even programming, right? You can program. A lot of people come to ChatGPT and write. So I can see a ChatGPT generated program. I know it's ChatGPT, right? So it's too perfect and too crisp, basically. So if you see a book, I know people that have written articles with ChatGPT, right? You just write it, then you read it. You know it's too perfect for a human to write it. So that's how you would know. Yes, that's possible. Yeah, people do that, and that makes you even more efficient. Yes, definitely.
Um, a lot of people use it for editing. Yeah, so when we're writing research papers and we have very little time, we often generate prompts with the language model, and just to give us ideas to inspire us and to check our work, to edit it, to reformulate it. All of that is fine. But so basically, the more specific you are in your prompts, the better the result. And oftentimes, yes, people are very basic with their prompts, and so either the text comes out too perfect, or it's not necessarily perfect, but very mechanic. Like, no human being would write like this, exactly. Or the text comes out, and it's like a fourth grader that wrote it, or someone that has English as like a third language or something. Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know, but from my layman's knowledge, if I'm writing a book and I put the ingredients or the contents on ChatGPT, doesn't that also go into the database as stored information? So somebody who just maybe takes a sentence or something will now get my private information in his book. So maybe it's not advisable to say you're writing your book. Or maybe you can just write aspects of your book, but definitely not the whole book.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you might have, you should probably read the terms and conditions always around these tools. But I guess there's also some stuff is not stated there. So how your data exactly is used, yeah, it could happen that it is stored and used to train the model in addition. And then, yeah, but yeah, it's probably a gray area again.
I think I also have a question. It's based on the ethical concern now when it comes to, is it ethical to use, because I know that at least for students, it's not. So what you say you want to write a book now, is it ethical to use it to write papers, to use it to write journals? And that comes the next question.
So as soon as ChatGPT was released, people immediately used it to write children's books and also generate images for children's books and just bring out like 20 children's books in a week. And that was really frowned upon, but it was also very obvious that the quality was just very, very poor in those products. I don't know if there's any more specific regulation concerning that, but I know that also when students, they hand in their essays for the proofing, whether it was generated with AI or this is the student's own work, that sometimes the test will say that the work that was handed in was written by an AI, even though it's a student's work. So also it's not very accurate or not 100% accurate.
Yeah, so that's what I talked about, the automated grading, right? So same way we have this when you write and you copyright, the way you're able to see your copyright, right? So same way, this automated grading for student essays, for example, exactly plagiarism. Same when we have AI stuff for plagiarism, same way an AI tool as well can detect that this was generated by an AI. So it's the same thing. But about the ethical thing, all right, at the end of the day, like Thomas said, it's no matter how ideas flow through your head, you can't write 20 books in a week. You can't write 20 books in 3 weeks, right? So that's going to be, because I was reading something and the person said someone created a library or created 3 programming libraries in a week. That's not possible, all right? So then you start questioning that this person didn't do it himself. So the ethical thing is, for you, it's, like Thomas said, there are no restrictions per se, all right? There are no restrictions. It's just you knowing as an individual that this is the right thing, all right? At the end of the day, those questions will come out, right? Your, the false nature of whatever you did will come out because people ask questions, professionals will ask you questions. And if you don't answer those questions, then it's a problem, so yeah.
It's how I see it. I'm just going back to the book thing. We already have a lot of AI, auto spelling, auto grammar checks, auto things that already work in Word, in a Word document already. So it's not like you don't have any idea of what you want to put out there. So how I'm looking at it is, what you're looking at is, I have these ideas, I have these points, I want to put more flesh on what I already have. And also when AI generates it, it's not like I'm just going to copy AI and paste it on some Word document and say, oh, this is my book. It's really, I'm just looking at it that it's an end. If one looks at it, this is enhancing what I'm already doing. This is not creating or innovating or starting off from the floor. Because like Pastor said, we're pulling it out of some database somewhere. And it's going back also into this database. All these questions we've asked, everything, it's going back, oh, these are the questions people ask. Let us regenerate in this level. So on the ethical side, at least with text and maybe with Word, it can still be checked and it can still be modified. That's how I see.
Yes, if I may perhaps also contribute to that. A lot of the times these ethic questions turn out to be what we call strawman arguments, where nothing really speaks against using AI. AI is just another tool. And in my opinion, everyone should try and use such advanced tools like spell checkers or citation networks or even databases. I remember when our teachers did not want us to use Wikipedia as a database back when it was released. But I think all of these tools can be used in combination to produce even better works from yourself than you could without the tools. So oftentimes these ethical considerations are not really things that should limit you from using it. Now there are, for instance, when humans, so this is humans and AI working complementary with each other, each making the other better. So also these discussions that we have with the chatbot, it learns with this. So this is an open experiment right now, and it learns with this, exactly. And then where I think ethics needs to be considered is where it competes against humans. So this is like art competitions where artists sit down for hundreds of hours to produce art, and someone just puts in a prompt and generates an art piece, and that art piece wins the $25,000 prize. Exactly. That is where ethics should have a stronger grip than when you perhaps use it to help you formulate your book, or to look at different phrasing, or to get different kind of expressions. Exactly. So because that's how we use it for our research papers as well. Yeah.
Okay. I think that there is something going on here that we need to pay attention to. With AI, we can open our phone with Face ID. With the social media, you have recommendations. You send your mail, you can check it with Grammarly. You check the internet, artificial intelligence helps you to check, search, and brings you millions of copies of topics that you just ask the Google search to bring out. You have the digital voice, the smart home device that helps automate the use of gadgets and and appliances that we have in the houses. We can commit to work today with Google Map, and with banking, we have so much tools that we use. I can check my banking tool, and of course, Amazon recommendation on when you go to Amazon, which Obina spoke about. All this is creating, in my view, a new identity, whereby we are giving birth to a new society. If you look at the spiritual point of view, is this not going to affect the spiritual life of a believer when you can generate your praise and worship song list from a chat GPT? Is it not going to affect your spiritual life when you can generate prayer points? All I need to do is when Brother Emmy calls me, and I can put in prayer point about the Holy Spirit, and I can generate a prayer list with scriptures backing it. 2 days ago, I put on ChatGPT, please generate a message based on John chapter 3 from verse 14 to 15, which is talking about when someone is born spiritually, those are born of the Spirit are led by the Spirit, and those are born of the water are led by the water. Isn't this going to create a new identity, a new community, and isn't this going to affect our spiritual life? That's my question.
Perhaps I can answer from my own private or personal experience of how I use ChatGPT for these gospel-related things. And so every Sunday, when we come to church, I take extensive notes of everything that is being preached, from the prayer to the to what kind of songs we sung, and I try and extract more information out of that than I was able to while I was sitting in the worship. For instance, there are some Bible stories that are mentioned, but I just don't have any context concerning the story, and I don't understand why it is relevant or why it is being mentioned. And so, no, but it works well for the service, but if I really sit down and think about it and try and see what kind of life lesson I can extract out of that for myself, I can often find that it's difficult because I'm just missing a lot of information that perhaps a Bible scholar that has 30 years of experience with working with religious texts, he knows, okay, at this time, so-and-so was emperor in Rome, and this was the custom, and this was what they had to do. Exactly, that is one aspect, so the bigger information field. And then the other aspect is, since I've been gathering all this information for such a long time, I can start seeing patterns, bigger patterns within all these preachings, the prophecies that have been given to me. I can backtrack all the way back to, for instance, there was a prophet called Prophet Ahibishek. I have voice recordings of his prophecies and all, and I can always backtrack to that and correlate all the information that I have to one another. So this makes the entire experience richer for me. And I think this goes back to where we are talking about complementary versus competing. I think what you were mentioning was a competing field where we start replacing church workers with machines rather than having it be complementary, and perhaps having Brother Eme not just give us a worship service as he usually does, but perhaps maybe making it even more practical to a German context that he might be unfamiliar with because he didn't grow up in Germany, for instance. Exactly. So that is one way that I believe that these tools can help us. And in the end, what I like to emphasize is that tools only do what the people that use them make them do. So if you have evil intentions, yes, the tool is going to be very evil. It's going to make you more evil than you would have been able to be without the tool. And also if you have good intentions, you're going to be able to be better than if you didn't have the tools for the job. Yes.
I can say something because we have entered spiritual field now. Very, just adding to what Tommy already said, I think also that the time that we use to just looking at a pastor's work from my side, to do research, to gather information, to check things out, to read the concordance, to put into a lot of things, read books, read updates, can be shortened. Time for research can be shortened so that you can do the time you need for other things. So if Brother Aimé sends me a request and say, oh, you need to have prayer points for praying for the sick, for example, I can generate it with ChatGPT. It can give me more scope, and it can give us as a prayer team more time to maybe pray in the Spirit, or to maybe also for me, instead of just putting the points down, I can also explain some of the points, you know. So I think in the end, we, like Tommy said, we should look at these tools as complementary, as helping us do what we do now better. And I think it will help in reducing the time load, because this struggle, especially in Europe. I don't know how it is in many other places, but in Europe, you have a lot. You need time for a lot of things, and if you can reduce the research time and also get a more detailed research and more context in your research, then I think it should help us in increasing the quality of our spiritual life generally as a church. And some of the points I've noted today is really what do we, how do we engage? So some of the points you put out that the church can do engagement. What data do we need? Because we've just been collecting attendance. Maybe we need some other specific thing. And also, how do we use ChatGPT to prepare more in-depth messages? All the research I do, but maybe I can also get help from research that Chat or other AI sources have done to help with the spirituality that we do in church. So, yeah, I don't know if there's any other addition.
Just a quick addition. When you say to shorten the time that you spend researching, I actually find that I become so interested, and it is exactly what I am interested in that I end up researching, that I spend much more time doing Bible research. Exactly. So now I can easily spend 1 or 2 hours a day, whereas before I would do that in a week. Yeah, so just an additional point.
Another thing that I want to say in terms of the pushback that this might receive, I think it's normal for us to have this, because I remembered the first time when we started having Bibles on our phones, it received a whole lot of pushbacks, like, because because I grew up in a traditional Pentecostal church whereby you cast the devil, you have to point the Bible, so you understand. Yeah. So it's received, but right now you have to understand that these things, like Tom said, is complementary. Now it's easier. For instance, I might just be at work, I might be troubled in my mind, something like that, and just pick my phone, get a passage, read it. It's easier, the ease of accessibility and stuff. So like we don't have to look at it from the negative aspect, the competition aspect, like just from the complementary. I also watched a video recently where they were even talking about these AI tools and schools and stuff. Like a good example was when calculators came out. They said people felt like, oh, maths would be cheating. But the point is, maths became harder. It expanded our brain more to know that, okay, we could actually do way more. The humans were actually called computers before, like, because they were the ones doing these calculations and stuff like that. So I'm sure that then these so-called computers had the fear of like, oh, these new computers are coming for our jobs and coming for our things. But the idea is that we can actually do way more. It's in like achieve way more with these tools.
Basically, to the spirituality part, right? It doesn't replace spirituality, all right? So I could be praying, right? The same way prayer is a communication. I could be praying, right? And I have something in my heart, right? I have a scripture in my heart. I have a word in my heart. And I want to quickly get the scriptural basis of this thing. I just type it in, right? It gives me the scripture. So it's not competing. It doesn't mean that when they give me a prayer point, I'm lazy. I become lazy and I don't pray to, no. So I think it's just complementary, like Deval said, yeah.
Going spiritually, even speaking from the prophetic, prophetic comes many a times out of the resource of the meditation and the scriptures. You find people that are prophetic there. They actually have a spiritual hunger for the word. And so just from today, actually, I'm picking this up, that if, for example, a certain topic is coming in my heart, a certain word is coming into my heart, I could actually, use AI to find the background to that, which might add more context, which might help the individual that is being prophesied to understand what they're saying. Because many a times when you give the prophetic, you are giving it based on the understanding that you have from scripture, but the person hearing it may not have that understanding. So you may be a more natural context, more applicable context, so the person can actually say, well, that thing you prophesied about, I actually see that it was for me, rather than it just being a word that comes from the pulpit and has no relevance. So I'm seeing it also as a tool. Concerning the fears, I mean, one of the things I often hear people say is 666. We have to be careful of 666. And the Bible says it's the number of a man. And somehow people have correlated that to mean it's a man-made thing, just like 777 represents God, so 666 represents man. Man was made on the sixth day. So the fear that people have is that AI will become a monster and will take over people's lives. But I think more explanations like what we have today will really help the Christian community and the church community. So I'd really like to ask that, we bring these topics up again and again. Today was really good. We went from the history, the foundation, don't know if we still have something more, and then, the church. And I think it's really good to get that foundation, to understand that AI has been with us forever. And it will continue to increase, just as men also increase in their understanding and in their zest for knowledge and for adventure and for creativity. And so if that awareness can be brought into the church in a way that it enhances our spiritual activity, then I think we'll get rid of a lot of the fears that people have.
I have a question. I don't know if it's just a quick one. When Obina, during Obi's presentation, you showed a slide, sorry, a link, a video, whereby actually I think where AI is used for identification and stuff like that with different confidence levels. And so so putting that now back to like maybe ChatGPT or general AI tools, how are we as humans, how do we know that, okay, what this thing is bringing is garbage? How do we separate the stuff of higher confidence from stuff with higher confidence level from stuff with lower confidence level? I don't understand.
I think Tommy explained it, right? So for ChatGPT, if you put whatever you put in, if you're too general in what you're putting in, right, it will give you general stuff, all right? And when you read it, you will know this is general, this is a primary, maybe grade 4 student. But when you're more specific, all right, so if I give it something very specific, it would give me something much more accurate, basically. You understand? So that's it. If I say, okay, if I ask you what is AI, it would give me a lot of things. But if I now tell you, okay, what is the application of machine learning in Industry 4.0, it becomes more specific. All right, so that's how you can know that. You have to be more specific in what you're giving it, and the more specific you are, the more the confidence level increases, basically. Yeah.
I don't know, at least from machine learning, what's it called? Like he said, we have like the actually when it's a model that's been created by ourselves, you know, you have the training data set, and I don't know. So in the case whereby the training data set itself is false, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. And I, as the end user, don't realize that the training data set is false. And if this is in a field whereby I have practically like 20% knowledge, so I don't really know that the training data set is false. So how do I now know that, okay, this that I'm getting, I don't know if that's what I'm trying to, because like you said, it's being trained.
This is called bias in the data, and this is a very big problem, yes, especially when you take data that you believe is right, but that has implicit biases that you haven't noticed until the machine starts training. Examples of this are, for example, they were training machines to recognize faces, and they realized that in the training data, it was only white people. So it could recognize white people's faces, but it couldn't recognize Africans at all. And so that is something that people have to be very careful of as they are doing what is called data engineering. And so data engineering is when you don't just take the data, but you need knowledge management and information management and truly model, okay, what is this data showing me? What is in the data? And then use that to train the intelligence, exactly.
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm saying is that me as an end user, for instance, if there is a good example is what you made, what you just said now. They probably created it for their target user or something. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So if me now, coming to Germany now, they've created this data, this machine, this model, just to recognize this and this. And now I come, the system doesn't realize that I am not white. The system doesn't realize that I am not German. But it still gives me a result based on what I understand the fact that the data engineers, they have to correct the bias. But what if in a situation whereby they don't realize it's a bias, but me as an end user, I don't know what's being put behind the back end. I don't get what I'm trying to say. So how do I now know that, oh, there is a bias there as an end user? I'm not talking of the people who created the model now. I'm talking of on the other end, we as end users.
Yeah, that is and so right now what we call this is we're trying to work on models that focus on their explainability. And so they don't just give you results and tell you do this or do that, but they explain why they are giving you certain results. And so this is on the cutting edge right now. And exactly, this is why you can't just trust any AI model that you come across. Exactly, you can't just use any data set you come across. Yeah, but to answer your question, it's an active area of research.
I used Chat GPT once when I was doing my Steuererklärung, and there was a phrase that I had to answer. I had no idea what this phrase meant, so I put it on Chat GPT, and it gave me a long list. And then at the end, it did explain it. I was able to take one and use it in context. But at the end, it did say that this is subject to location, to country, to, So I think because it's a work in progress, it does give you that feedback. Yes.
There was actually a time, so right now what we demonstrated was ChatGPT version 4, but like version 1 and 2, oftentimes it would have what are called hallucinations, where it would give you a result that it thought was correct, and if you didn't know better, you would also think it was correct, but someone that knew about it knew that this was absolutely, if Angela Merkel is a woman, and it would say, yes, she is a woman. And then you would ask it if Germany has ever had a woman chancellor before, and it would say no. And you would ask it, okay, but Angela Merkel is a woman, and she has been the German chancellor. Do you want to correct your answer? And then it would start hallucinating and just generating gibberish exactly, but it wouldn't give you the correct answer, yeah. And so if you were unfamiliar with German politics, you might have just taken that as the correct answer, yeah.
I think we can close now. Or Joseph, do you have something? Yeah, before we do. Do you have anything you want to add? Has everyone, someone is behind me here. Is that Rita? Are you just listening? Say your own.
So thank you all for the presentation. It was really brilliant. While all this was going on, I was also thinking in my own domain and thinking about AI and manufacturing. I think we should also be very sensitive to that and be very attentive to it, because for us in the production, we want the more production we have, the better. So if maybe our bosses, they are the business owners and they want their profit. So if they see something that will increase production, it will be very, very important for them to take note of it. But then we as individuals, as consumers as well, we should be very careful with what we consume, because yes, it would increase production, yes, it will meet the demands of people, but then what are you consuming? You have to pay attention to it. So the ethical value of this is also very, very, very critical to take note of. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, perhaps it can be a reassurance that on the government level, they are thinking of this exactly. And so that is also a parameter of our research. Hence why it's supposed to be sustainable AI and not just AI. Can the workers that it is supposed to work with, can they accept these AI solutions? That's one. And on the end also is the consumer. Are they protected from, for instance, false decisions from these artificial intelligences? For example, perhaps it's not that bad if it gives you the wrong information on politicians, but if you're doing an MRI scan and you're doing thousands and you rely on the information and it misses a few tumor cells or so, that can be fatal for a patient, exactly. So these are things that, at least from the government side, they are already saying this has to be part of the AI if you're going to do AI. Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say that we can utilize AI to convert our messages, Sunday messages and Thursday messages, to transcribe them from vocal to literal, to letters, and then have them as books that can be published. You can also translate them to German. Yeah.
we would like to, let us please celebrate all our AI. It's a small circle. I wasn't expecting too many people, at least here physically, because it's already part of our lives. And some people don't even know that AI is already controlling a lot of our lives. So I want to thank the group of IT specialists in various areas and your ability to communicate this to us in a way that we can understand. Coming from the historical part, which was very, very useful, because that allowed us to understand that it is a help. It is a tool to help, and not a tool to replace. And all the machines that have been built, none of them have been able to replace human beings. And I don't think we will be able to be so versatile that it will replace human beings totally. When I was thinking about this project, there was an article on land itself, because I work in the aviation industry. They said most of what pilots do nowadays is just being there. The airplane can actually take off. It can go through turbulence. It can land. All on autopilot. But there was a test that was made where people were told both airplanes can actually take off and land itself. But one of them has a pilot. Which one will you go in? So they found out 100% people said no, even if it can land itself, but there's a pilot sitting in the cockpit, I'll prefer that. And that's the truth. Everyone would, and the pilots say, yeah, we're only here really in the case something really, really, really goes wrong. And yeah, so it's a tool. It will help. It will help us in this church as well, because with brains like yours, we should be able to get some more out of AI than we are getting now. Help us with our services, programs, organizations, administrations, back office, a lot of things that we should be able to automate. I think we should start thinking about it. And this is not the last time we will call you for help. So we are believing that the next phases we'll be able to have talks like this, where we innovate and get better as a church. And I think it's good that God has placed you in the places where you are, because you can bring this to us here, where it can really augment our spirituality and help our worship of God better, really improve our worship of God. Thank you very much. Let us just have a closing prayer before we go. Father, we thank you for all the souls that you have brought into your presence today. Thank you for all this information. Thank you for the kingdom that is expanding, your work that is expanding. The fact that all these tools are really for your work to expand. And so, Father, we thank you because you help us to apply this into what we are doing. So that at the end of it all, Father, we see your hand behind every move of science, every move of technology, every move of development. Help us, Father, to use this for the furtherance of your kingdom. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Amen. Thank you very much, and God bless you.